For analysis on this unfolding situation, let's go to William Lawrence. He's a professor of political science and international affairs at American University. William, good to have you on the program. This new interim Prime Minister, Mohammed al-Bashir, he managed a small pocket of rebel-held territory during Bashar al-Assad's rule, I understand. What more do we know about him and why he was chosen?
Simply because he's managing one of the 5 governments of Syria until quite recently, when he took over the main government. Saturday, Syria had 7 armies and 6 governments, and by Sunday they had 6 armies and 5 governments controlling different parts of territory. But the army that controlled Idlib, right, is the one that's taken over the government in Damascus. And so their leader is now the leader of the country on a temporary basis, but they do not control the entire territory. There are huge swaths of territory not under control. There's fighting going on in the north, there's fighting going on in the east, and so there's a whole set of negotiations that have to begin in the coming days and weeks and months to figure out if Syria is going to come together as one country or not.
And he's set up to lead this small cabinet so that public services can resume. Can you talk a little bit about what the restructuring of a new government in a country so crippled by civil war looks like?
Humanitarian services at first. I mean, it's basically just trying to get people food and clean water and electricity and the other basic means of survival up front. And then there's a next set of things like educational services and other things. And during that, we'll get the first look at how restrictive or how free the administration of the country will be. We've had missed signals from the government in Idlib in the last couple of years about how much, while they're accommodating other ethnic groups and religions, they're actually going to respect the rights of those other communities, equal rights for them and other religions. And that remains to be seen. And that's why so much of the coverage is fraught and concerned about the future of Syria, depending on who's in control. So there's a tension now. You know, will the mass of Syrians that want the country to move forward in a democratic manner with respect for all win? Or will those that want to privilege one religion or one group or one ethnicity over another win? And that remains to be seen.
And uncertainty is exasperated now with Israel carrying out large-scale attacks across Syria. Can you talk about the importance of Israel's role here and its objectives?
They're not helpful. The U.S. has been striking ISIS in Syria mostly, and Israel's been striking Hezbollah targets and Syrian government targets to try to take full advantage of the situation while it's acting in an unbridled fashion before any future negotiations and ceasefires. But it's making the situation worse, and that's why the UN envoy and the Americans have asked Israel to cut it out, not force them, but ask them, as they've done in other settings, because this type of opportunistic land grabbing, as they've done in the Golan, and bombing, as they're doing in Damascus and elsewhere, could actually make the situation worse, especially because of what's been going on in Gaza and Lebanon.
And of course, the mass displacement of Syrians, you know, across much of the Middle East and in Europe. Many Syrians now wanting to leave those countries and return home. They've been seeking asylum. You know, European countries are putting those asylum applications on pause. What are the risks of masses of Syrians returning either by choice or forced to by host countries?
Well, there's another problem you didn't manage. Right now, there are more Syrians crossing into Lebanon than into Syria because there are pro-regime Syrians that are fleeing and others just fleeing because the borders aren't controlled to try to get food and sustenance or protection from the Lebanese government. But the long-term goal, whether it's the Lebanese, which have 1.5 million or more, the Turks, which have 3 million or more, and the Germans, who have close to 1 million, is to get those Syrians headed home as soon as possible. But supporting those Syrians is a real problem. And, you know, getting up services for the Syrians that are already there is a problem. Getting up the services for all the Syrians that are coming back is also a problem. But I think it's going to be driven more by demand than supply, i.e. it's going to be more Syrians that just want to go back to take care of family members, to take care of business, to check on the status of their homes, their home communities, and see if there's a future possibility there that's going to drive this more than any governmental policies.
All right, William Lawrence, we'll have to leave it there. Really appreciate your time.